Hello, 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 and welcome back to another Red Lipstick Talk.
Yay!
So excited to have Alissa Sanders here. So while we're waiting for people to come on, let me go ahead and start playing one of her music, one of her songs. And if I could play it, let's see.
Fingers crossed.
Share
It's gonna work.
audio. Okay. Can you guys hear it? All right, so as people are coming on,
like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Alone way from home. A long way from home.
beautiful.
Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost done. A long way from home. A long way from home.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So beautiful.
Thank you. Fruit of the quarantine.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh my God, that is so amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Woo, that gave me chills. Mm.
Oh, it's hot here. Yeah, it was an interesting process because I'm mostly a performing artist, and then with the quarantine, all of a sudden there's no shows, no performances, no restaurant, like nothing. It's everything shut down. So it became about, okay, so how do I create music? I don't play the instruments that I would normally need on a song, so can I do that with my voice? And so I did all the voices and did either vocal or body percussion, and just started playing at home with it and teaching myself how to record rudimentary. Can't say that word. And that was one of the songs that came out of the process.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful. Well, while we have people coming on, we could do an official introduction, but welcome to Red Lipstick Talk. And as you're coming on, say hello. Let us know you're here. Say hi. If you got to hear the beautiful intro, let us know. So we have the beautiful Prandata, the beautiful Nefertiti, and the amazing, beautiful and amazing voice, Alissa Sanders. Let's show our red lipstick.
Hello, Renee. Hello, Alissa. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show. We are continuing our series within a series concept experiment. So for those who did not watch last week, we began our Finding Our Voice Abroad series. So this week we've invited Alissa to talk about her experience singing, finding her voice, connecting with artists, musicians in Brazil and beyond. And part 2 of our series within a series is Black August. So last week we talked about the origins of Black August. We talked about George Jackson. We talked about the Soledad Brothers. And today, after we talk with wonderful Alissa, we will talk more about how Black August grew into an observance among Black revolutionaries and freedom fighters today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So stay on for the entire show. So yes, Alissa, tell us. So you moved to Brazil
long time ago.
And then how? Yeah, tell us what happened. What was your journey? You went to Brazil, found your voice, became this amazing singer. But like, how did that happen?
I'll give you the brief version because my story with Brazil spans 2 decades plus. But yeah, I Brazil was about finding my voice before I was even singing professionally. I just, now in hindsight, I recognize that. But as I think happens when you move away from the place that you were born, but especially when you move to another country, I'll speak to my experience. It's kind of like a first encounter with who you really are, because you get to see those pieces of yourself that are the pieces that society told you should be, that your race told you should be, that your family told you you should be, in a context that's totally different from what created that identity. And so for me, it became really about choosing, like, does this work? Does this attitude work? Does this belief work? Does this behavior work? And if not, and also, like, is that really who I am, or is that what someone told me I should be? And if not, I'm in this new place where no one knows me, where I don't have any references. I can make another choice. So a lot of my time in Brazil, especially in the beginning, was about making those choices and really like growing into the person that I am now, I think. That has remnants of the person, who's originally from LA and, from an African-American family, but a lot of elements that are not connected to how I was raised and that were choices, things that I picked up in Brazil and other travels and, from people that I met and admired. So I think that was kind of like the big kind of like the background, the backdrop. And then as far as...
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to ask, what were some of the different elements that you saw in Brazil that wasn't in your home? But continue your train of thought, and then you can go back to that.
Oh, one thing that comes to mind immediately is I'm not from a touchy-feely family. And Americans in general are kind of less touchy-feely than Brazilians, especially than Bahians. So when I got to Bahia, I mean, people talk to you and they touch you, like they don't have to know you. It's another form of communication. They're touching you, you greet by kissing on the cheek. So, and I found that I was really comfortable with that. And a part of me was like, yay, like it was something that was already in me that I think had not felt permission to be expressed, because, if you do that in the States, especially with people you don't know, people can take offense. So it was like Bahia gave me permission to release that part of myself, because it was something that everyone else did. And so that was, there were a lot of examples like that, but that was one of the most fun things to discover. Oh, wow, this really is who I am. I didn't feel safe expressing this in my previous environment, but this is really like something that is native to me. This is something that's like part of who I am.
I can totally understand that. Like, I don't come from a touchy-feely family. I don't come from a very like lovey-dovey expressive family. And when I got to Brazil, like it just, Salvador specifically, because that's the first place that I entered, I felt like I was at home, and
Yeah.
it made me feel good. That touching, that you know, the way they communicated, that love that they showed, that jeito baiano, right? It just made me feel so loved, so open up. And I think that it allows you to be able to open up and express yourself and learn another side of you that you didn't know was there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize how touchy-feely I was. I mean, you know, I'm from New York. I'm like, don't be touching me. Why are you looking at me? Why you look at me? You know, New Yorkers they're like, why are you staring at me? Ready to fight? Like looking at someone, you ready to fight. But in Brazil, you know, you're making that eye contact, you're touching, and you know, and it was like, oh my God, this feels good.
Yeah.
And you can truly be who you are.
Yeah. I definitely can relate to that. And I had a reverse experience of that. I left Bahia in 2000 to move to New York to work as a flight attendant with American Airlines. And, you know, I'm fresh off the boat, fresh off the plane from Bahia, staring, because Bahians hold eye contact for a long time. And I didn't know what that about New York. And people were just offended. And I was like, what did I do? What did I do? And it just, people took it as aggression when I looked them in the eye, and I had to learn to look away, to kind of turn off this thing of like being at the bus stop and just striking up a conversation, because people think you're crazy if you do that in New York. And I just felt like shut down. It was so crazy.
So you said finding your voice, going to Brazil was about finding your voice before really finding your voice through the music. So
right.
Can you expand on that? Like, what do you mean by that?
I think, you know, in this way that life will direct you to go where you need to go and do what you need to do, and you don't necessarily know what the big picture is. I didn't go to Brazil thinking I'd be a singer. I was terrified my whole life of singing in front of people. I was one of those in the closet, in the shower singers, and I was fine with that. But in this process of self-discovery, and going through my Saturn return, which I don't know if you're into astrology, but around 28, 29, when it's like something cracks open and you really have to start dealing with some of your shadow.
Right.
I found that I was turning to song just to stay sane. Like I was just singing like a lot of Billie Holiday and a lot of that really like gut wrenching, soul, like aching music. And it just came to me intuitively that I've got to do this to save myself. Like this is part of my spiritual work, because I'm not going to make it through this if I can't get this out, transform all of this shadow. And so I started working with a voice teacher in Salvador who changed my life. His name's Neto Costa, and he worked with Gilberto Gil, Ivete Sangalo, like the hugest singers in, you know, Salvador. So it was like there was no guarantee he was even going to work with me. And but he said, you know, come over and audition. And for my audition, I made him leave the room because I was terrified to sing in front of people. Right. And so I sang a jazz standard, and I just learned to sing by ear, you know. So
oh wow, so that means there's hope.
Absolutely,
there's hope for me because
absolutely, yes. I hadn't taken any lessons at that point.
Right. What is the voice coach's name? I just want to put his name up here.
Neto, Neto.
Neto.
Costa, Costa. Everyone calls him Netinho. And so he came back in the room, and he's very serious, and he, you know, just looking at me. He's like, first off, you should know I have enough clients. I don't need your money. I was just like, oh, here we go. The axe is about to drop. And he said, but you need to know you were born to sing. Some people were born to sing, and you're one of those people. If you want to take classes, I'll take you on as a student. And I was not expecting to hear that. And he really had no reason to say that to me. And so I said, all right, this is spirit saying this is the path. And so I started working with him twice a week. And sometimes I would just go and we'd start doing the breathing exercise. And you know about breathing exercises, that's going to pull up all the emotion. I just burst into tears, and the class is over because I couldn't sing because I was crying. And there was like 6 months of that, of just like all this stuff coming up through song. And so I studied with him for, I think, about 2 or 3 years. And by 99, he was able to actually get me on a stage in front of people. I was drunk, but I got up on the stage and did it. And so that was kind of like the first step. And then I kept pushing it away because it was just too hard. It was too raw. And so my finding my voice journey has really been, it's been two parts. There has been the vocal part, learning to use the instrument, but the bigger and the hardest part has really been the spiritual part, which is giving myself permission to share my voice, to hear my voice, to put it out there, to explore it, to be okay with it, to feel safe.
Spiritual voice. Happy ando, as they say in Brazil. So happy ando, happy yay. Like you get the chills, right? Like, oh my God, that touched me.
Yeah, because I think we all have that journey in our own way. And for me, it was really like I had to do so much spiritual work to be able to get up on stage and sing. And at one point, I remember this is around 2007, and I was in São Paulo. Spirit just shut everything down. I tried to be a journalist, tried to be a photographer, tried to be a flight attendant. Like I tried to open my own business, do everything. And Spirit just, by 2007, Spirit just shut everything down. And the only thing that opened up was music. And I was like, all right, well, I guess it's time to really like encara, take this on, because there's, otherwise I'm gonna starve. And when I made that commitment, as they say, you take one step, God takes 100, 1,000. I was able to quite magically be invited to sing at Barreto, which is like the best piano bar in São Paulo, which like people have been trying for decades to get into that bar. And I was invited in there, and through having to be up on stage in front of an audience 4 days a week, I really had no choice but to really learn how to accept my voice and just do the spiritual work more so than the vocal work, to be able to get up there and whatever I was feeling. It's like, if I was going to cry, I couldn't run off stage.
Right.
So sometimes it had to become okay to cry in front of people, or to learn to channel those emotions into the songs. And so that kind of became where I went with it. And I started to understand, oh, this is how we can transform people through the music, because everyone has these feelings. And if I can learn to put the feelings, instead of repressing them, trying to push them, or don't cry, don't feel that fear, don't feel that anger, don't feel that despair, but offer it to the song, offer it through my voice, then perhaps there is my transformation, but perhaps there can be transformation in the audience as well. And it was so interesting to observe. And this was the gift of singing at places where, I was there 3 or 4 nights a week, got to know the audience, singing the same songs over and over, which is kind of the piano bar deal. You start to embody the music. You step out of yourself a little bit, because it becomes a bit routine, and you can allow yourself to really move into the music. And especially if I had a bad day, like I was just a mess emotionally, that was going to be my best singing day, because that was kind of my life jacket. That was my buoy. And almost always on those days, someone would come up to me after and say, when you sang such and such song, I felt something so deep inside. I felt these tears, or I remembered, a time when I was feeling this or this, but it was so beautiful that I felt joy too. And I was always so grateful for the people that shared that experience, because it showed me that it's not a problem to have those emotions. They're part of the human experience. And there's something transformational and healing when we can share them, which is not something the society really permits us to do. If it's a happy feeling, okay. But if we're sad, if we're feeling destroyed, if we're feeling despair, especially in Brazil, that's not stuff you share. So it gets pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. It turns into all sorts of diseases. But if we can collectively kind of recognize, hey, I feel that too. And wow, I feel that sadness, but there's this beautiful song. Can they coexist? Can that sadness be transformed into something beautiful?
Yes.
and it still was a sad thing that happened, but there's like this beauty born of it. And that's something that, to me, I don't know if you feel this way, Renee, that samba, and not even just samba, I think Black music in general is so genius at this, taking, something sad, something tragic, and transforming it into beauty, transforming it through art into something beautiful.
Yes.
So,
it does. It really does. And I think it's so beautiful to hear you speak and say this, and even bring in the spiritual component, because the spiritual component is so important. And I know so many people have blockages to sing, and it could be a throat issue, communication, not being able to express yourself. And we have a friend, I don't know if you know Gabrielle. Gabrielle Williams.
Yeah, I met her.
Yeah, so she also found her voice in Brazil. We should get her on here. Do a 3-part
series within the series. I find it. You found it.
But she started after doing ayahuasca, so she was in an ayahuasca ceremony, and during that ceremony, the shaman, the guide, he was like, told her to sing, told her to sing the song, and it came out. She could tell the story better. And ever since then, she's been singing and working, and that's been healing. And I think there's a whole nother component. And that's one of the things that I love about Brazil. Brazil is so magical that you find these things, and it's not on a superficial level. I mean, it can be, but if you open and you do the work, and that's the other thing that I loved about what you shared. If you open up, or you meet God, or you meet the universe, you take 1 or 2 steps towards the universe, towards God, God or the universe will take 10 more steps, and so many times people want things their way, and they're set in their mind, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be a flight attendant. Things happen, it doesn't work. No, I have to be, and they keep fighting, as opposed to being open and saying, okay, what does the universe want from me? What does spirit want from me? And how do I open myself to receive what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yes to all of that. And I wanted to tell you guys why spirit came when you were speaking, Alissa, because you had talked about permission. And it's funny because this morning I was doing Orisha class. So I've been living in Brazil for the last 8 years, and I just came to California a couple months ago. And depending on pandemic situation, I'm planning to go back by the end of the year back to Bahia. So I'm kind of in this in between. But I've been doing I do a dance class, every day, and then on Fridays it's Orisha class with Rosângela Silvestre and Vera Paz. Silvestre family. If anyone's out there wanting to do virtual online classes, it's fantastic. Every Friday, 11.
If you could type that into the comments, that would be great. Yeah.
11 a.m. Silvestre.
Or I can.
You want to type it in for me, Renee?
Yeah. Yeah, I can type it in. It's Silvestre Technique with Rosângela.
Yeah. So every Friday is Orisha class.
I think
at
I would do that too.
11 a.m. Eastern time. And we were doing class this morning, and who we were dancing with for this morning were dances of Eshu. So Ago means permission. So the whole morning we were exploring, what does it mean to give yourself permission to believe, first and foremost, to
real
move.
Quick, I'm so sorry. Real quick. What is the link to send them to, so I could type that as you're talking, so I could have it on the screen as you're sharing about it?
You can just send an email, or you can go to, let me see, the email you can go to is Silvestre Technique. Let me make sure. Silvestre Technique at gmail.com. So if you want to join the class, you just send them an email. It's donation based. So if you give what you can. There's one more week for August, and they have not mentioned what the September class will look like. But if you want to do one more week, there's still one more week to go for any folks out there wanting to connect to Orisha classes, Orisha dance classes online. yeah, it's really great. It's been wonderful. It's been saving me this whole time since
So
April.
if you don't, if people, some people might be on here and don't know what orishas are.
Sorry,
So-
let me correct the link there.
Okay, that's why I told you to do it, because I don't know. I figured that would be easier. But anyway, orishas are the deities, the gods, goddesses of the Yoruba traditional Ifa tradition. I guess in Ifa they call them Yoruba. Some traditions, I mean, orishas. And so,
yeah, so orishas are deities that are from the Yoruba deity complex, Yoruba in Nigeria. And many Yoruba came to Brazil, and how it's transformed over time. It's its own religion that's specific to Brazil, that pays reverence to these deities that are connected to nature. So, you know, and there's particular dances that are connected and symbolize these orishas as well. So the class is about the symbology of the orishas.
And Oshun, who Beyonce is always singing about now, is an orisha. So, you know, you're probably familiar with Oshun if you've been watching a little bit of Beyonce, because she's very much an Oshun woman. Lemonade, and I think she paid some homage to Oshun in Black is King as well. So yeah,
great. Anyway, so yes, sorry for the tangent, everybody. So when you were talking about giving yourself permission, it just really resonated with this place of how is it that we give ourselves permission to be expressive, and to allow others to be witness to that. And when you were, you know, I really was relating to you about all the different issues around going on stage and performing. What does that mean? You know, I also I'm a percussionist and I dance, and I've gotten to sing actually because of a project that asked me to sing. So I had to train, and then I discovered my voice as well. But how much resistance there is to put ourselves in that space.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I wanted to hear more about what that was like for you in São Paulo to have a regular gig, being from the US, and also what, you know, just kind of what was that world like for you in terms of just like the industry, if you know, a bunch of things for being a woman, if, you know, after doing that gig, you wanted to go in another direction, I guess just kind of hearing the rest of their story.
Okay. It was a huge blessing to be able to start my professional journey in São Paulo, because São Paulo has the kind of music scene that I'm not sure cities in the States have anymore. There's still a lot of live music. At the time, there was quite a bit of jazz. And being an African-American woman, it was really open to me, because it was like, wait, you're like, this is your tradition. So that was really, it was nice to be embraced in that way. And it's surprisingly, although I think you see this in the States too, there are very few Black Brazilians in the jazz scene in Brazil in general. And it's not really seen as being like a Black art form. It's very elitizado. Portuguese. Elitist. How do you say that in English?
elitist.
So the jazz clubs are for the most part in very expensive neighborhoods, and you know, you just don't see Black people there in those scenes. And so I felt like it was important for me to be there, even as an American, because you kind of get a pass, and I think you guys probably have experienced this. You get a pass as an American once they know you're an American. So like it was okay for me to be in places as a Black woman that wouldn't necessarily have embraced an Afro-Brazilian woman in the same way. But still, I felt like it was important that there was like a Black person representing a heritage that is Black, that a lot of people don't realize that, you know, It just their references might be Diana Krall or Frank Sinatra, and there's not an understanding of where the music came from. So when I had the opportunity to share, when I had the opportunity to sing things of Black composers, when I had the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Jazz started off like samba. It used to be elite, it started in brothels. You could be arrested for being a jazz musician. It was not an elitist thing. It was something that came out of the Black community that was, very roots. It didn't start of here being this thing of like, and people didn't know that. So that I felt good to be able to do that. But also there's just something like my idols in jazz, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, because my references were more like the old school, like 30s, 40s, 50s singers. They cut their teeth on the road. They weren't taking class. They were like out on the road playing with bands twice, 2 times a night, 6 nights a week. That's why they were so good. It wasn't this cerebral thing where I got to study chords. I mean, although Sarah Vaughan was a kick-ass musician. Excuse me, I don't know if I can say ass. But
ass. You're on Red Lipstick Talk. I'm keeping it real.
She was a kick-ass musician. She was an amazing pianist. She knew all the theory. But what made those iconic singers so amazing, besides their talent, was that they were out 6 nights a week doing it, which is something that we don't really have the opportunity to do nowadays because it's not popular music anymore. So there are a lot of jazz musicians that are, they're doing other sorts of music to pay the bills, or they're doing other jobs. And so to be able to sing jazz and also learn Brazilian music, to learn a lot of Brazilian standards by singing 4 nights a week or 5 nights a week sometimes. And the whole thing of like getting your chops in that way of you've got to be able to go with the flow. In Barreto, I worked with Mario Edson, who's an amazing pianist, arranger, and icon of Brazilian music, just kind of like a Nelson Riddle kind of figure, but in Brazil. And he was a showman. So he wasn't going to say, hey, now we're going to do X song. He would play one note. And from that one note, you needed to know the arrangement. You needed to know the key. You needed to know when you were going to come in, because if you were off, you were going to hear about it after.
Wow.
And so those are things you learn in a school. Those are things you learn because you're going to get your ass kicked if you don't. You're going to hear about it from those old musician cats. They don't want to know. Look, you messed up. Don't do it again. That kind of pressure was actually good. It's that kind of thing that refines you and takes you out of your head. Because for me, it was really learning to trust my body knows this.
Wow.
I know when to come in. I know this. And if I overthought it, I'd get it wrong. It doesn't. And the good thing was there wasn't usually time to overthink it. He would literally play a note like ding, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, and you had to come in. You couldn't think about it.
Wow.
So for someone who was always in her head and terrified, I'm a Virgo, so I got to get it perfect.
I'm a Virgo too. I understand that.
I was like, we'd rather not do it if we can't do it perfect. It's like, oh wait, I don't have time to get my head about this. So that was a gift. That was a huge gift. And the interesting thing is that it was something that I was able to take into other parts of my life as well. Not just on stage. It started to allow me some freedom in other parts where I got this. Okay, I haven't figured it all out, but I think I got enough skills where I'll be okay. And if I fall, I'll get up. Because there were lots of nights that I screwed up. I go in the bathroom and cry. I gotta get back out there and just get back out there. And I didn't disappear. I didn't turn to a puddle of water. I was still there. They got over being mad at me, and it was okay. And it's about the human experience. Everyone's gonna screw up. You only don't screw up if you don't try.
Right. It's so interesting. When I lived in Salvador, there was a point in time where I was taking singing lessons by this lady named Elena. I don't know if you guys know her, Elena Diaz. She's from Argentina. And it was so interesting because even though I was taking singing lessons, she was doing like a whole spiritual piece, right? Like just energy work. She would have me on the ground doing movement like a tiger and like moving my body and going, ah. I was like, what the hell is she having me do? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with singing? Well, I'm sorry. But it was so interesting because, you know, just doing that movement and just connecting to your body and being able to feel. And I think that, you know, this just came to me as you were talking and I was just listening, like getting out of our heads and not thinking of, okay, how does this have to sound? How does it have to do? And just doing stuff. And so I think with doing those different movements and those different things, opening up that voice, allowing a sound to come out and just doing this and that different stuff. And so, you know, so it's just interesting the different ways that people have, you know, to work with you to open up your voice and teaching singing and things like that, you know, and getting you out of your head as well, to not be like, it has to be this way, or I sound horrible, or this or this or this, you know?
Yeah, we've been singing for millions of years, you know, from the time we invented language, or maybe even before we invented language, we invented songs. I'm sure people were imitating birds that they heard, you know, maybe before there was language. So it's, you know, people will say, I can't sing. And it's like, how do you know? Another thing too, which I've kind of like, I know that The Voice and these shows have given a lot of people opportunities, but I'm kind of mad at them because they create kind of a false idea of what it is to sing and what it is to be a singer. I think people don't realize on those shows that's not just someone getting up and singing. That's someone who's working with an arranger, with a vocal coach. That's someone who's in a studio. What you hear is not live. It's been produced. It's been vocal corrected. There's reverb. There's all that's a produced product. That's not just something. Of course, the person's essence is in there, but I think we get an idea from all that we're seeing on social media that like, oh, if you don't sing like they sound on The Voice, you can't sing. And no. You know, everyone's voice, if you're being authentic, then you're singing. I mean, look at Tom Waits, who I'm not a fan of him. He's off key. He sounds like he swallowed glass and then followed it with a couple of shots of whiskey, but he's being him. And he's hugely popular. And he has something to say. And he touches people.
Yeah.
You know, he's not a singer. Maybe he's not your favorite singer, but he is a singer.
Yes. Well, let me tell you, Alissa, you are speaking to some people's souls here.
Yes.
Yes. So I want to say, you know, real quick, thank you to everybody who's coming on and commenting. Alma says singing is the soul sounds. Karina says y'all are speaking to my soul. Ashe. PD, this is a great talk. You know, guys, thank you. Karina also said, love this story. Thank you guys who are coming on and commenting. If you have any questions for Alissa, please ask now. Any questions about part of her journey or, you know, anything like that, ask away.
I'm going to ask if nobody does.
Go ahead. While we're waiting for other people to ask, go ahead and ask. Now is the time. We got her on here.
Great. My brain is like, so Alissa, so you were singing regular gigs, São Paulo, getting all this opportunity to practice, fall, get yourself back up again. And there came a moment, you know, I was reading your bio where you left Brazil at some point and you went to Ethiopia, I believe. If you could talk more about, you know, you were in one place, what Brazil gave to you, and then when you left and where you went and what happened there.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for asking. I like telling the story. So yeah, I went through a period where I started questioning, am I really meant to be doing this? Like I was losing, there was something that I wasn't feeling behind it anymore. I was starting to doubt, I was starting to think, hey, Phil.
Oh, wait, why did you put it on?
Sorry.
Because you're so beautiful with your red lipstick. And starting to wonder, am I being irresponsible being an artist? I was in São Paulo, rents were going up. It was around the recession was starting. I was like, maybe I just need to go get a regular job and forget this art thing. And then I got ill. I had polycystic ovaries and had to fly back to the States for emergency surgery. It was a mess. And I was like, all right, maybe it's time to give this up. So I started teaching and just trying to just forget I was a musician, just like, no, that was a phase. I'm done. And I just got really depressed. And I thought, okay, before I go on meds, let me work with this Ayurvedic doctor. She's kind of like a doctor, life coach. And she said, you know what? You just need to find your desire. You've lost your desire. You're all the way in your logical mind. And it's like, but who are you? What do you really want? And so we went through this kind of rewiring of reconnect to desire. If you want to go eat an ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, go do that. If you want to watch Bollywood movies, you need to connect. You need to listen to that voice that you've turned off, because that's what the depression is. You're not listening to your soul. And so I worked with her for a couple of months, and what started coming up was, of course, music, which I had abandoned, and travel. Those were my two passions. And so we started looking at, well, how do you marry those? And in a way that, you're not going to jump off into the abyss, but, how do you plan for that? You've got a job where you're earning a salary. Can you save money? Can you create a project? Can you come up with a plan? And so finding my voice was born of that, which is a project that I think is going to be continuing throughout the rest of my life. But I started looking at, okay, so what I was doing as an artist, singing in bars, doing covers, that's not where I want to be going for the rest of my life. But how do I marry this whole journey of discovery that Brazil had been, which was really about finding out who I am, and song being an integral part of that, and travel being an integral part of that, because those were the two elements that had really allowed me to blossom. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, I've been in Brazil for a while. What about going to some other places and see if I can recreate this process? And maybe there'll be a rebirth of sorts that will kind of jumpstart where I need to go musically. Mm-hmm. And there is an artist named Idan Rachel who's from Israel, who I had met in 2012. And he had a project called the Touré Rachel Project, who was with the son of Ali Farka Touré, called Touré from Mali. Mm-hmm. And they did this thing where they had two Israeli musicians and two Malian musicians on stage. And they created this new language between their different musical traditions. They just created a way of speaking to each other through the instruments. And it was kind of like creating a hybrid type of music by combining elements of each. And they did this live on stage. And I remember being mesmerized and meeting him after and just being electrified, like instant past life, deep soul connection with this man. So much it scared me. And I said, you know what? I went to my coach and I said, I think I need to reconnect with him. And she said, absolutely. So I started this process. And this is this thing of you take a step forward and the universe comes up, takes 1,000. I wrote to him. He responded. And the way that I even got his email was from some random interview. I saw it 1 a.m. on YouTube where he actually gave out his email. And I'm like, 100 people have seen this interview and he's really famous. I'm like, all right. So that started this process. And then she was like, okay, so you're going to connect with this musician who's doing something that you feel like you want to do. What are you going to show him about who you are? You're going to show him what you did 10 years ago? No. Oh, I got to create some new stuff. What am I going to create? Mm-hmm. So then I had to start looking, well, who am I now? What is my voice now? And I swear it was such a magical moment where musicians I had worked with from years before, I said, look, I have this crazy dream. I'm going to go to Israel. I want to connect with this artist. He's doing this thing with music. I want to do this thing. I want him to mentor me. Look, I only got 300 reais. Can you help me do this video? Yes. Like everyone was so excited about what? That's a crazy dream. You're going to actually do that? Yes. How can I help you? I mean, people showing up some of the top musicians in São Paulo, the top studio, top, video makers. So I did a video of one of his songs and sent it to him, and he loved it. And I had already bought my ticket to Tel Aviv. Right? I'm gonna be in Israel from this date to this day. I'd love to meet you for coffee. Cool. When you get there, let me know. And I'm just like, this flying by the seat of your pants, this thing of when you listen to your soul. If you tell people like what you're doing, if you tell them too much, they're going to be like, you are out of your mind. I left a job with a contract, a good paying job to go to a country I knew nobody. And as it turned out, this guy is like one of the most famous musicians in Israel, kind of like at the Beyonce level. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Why would he meet with me, a little nobody? I just went into this. My spirit was so in yes mode. I was just like, it has to happen. I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And at every single step, it was like stepping out onto the abyss, and somehow like a cloud comes underneath your feet for you to step on. I had no guarantees. I had no, so I left my job in Salvador. I went through Ethiopia because it had always been my dream to go there. And this particular musician worked with a lot of Ethiopia. He had a strong connection to Ethiopia. So I ended up going there, which ended up being fateful after. But so I went to Ethiopia, was there for 3 weeks, connected with musicians there, sang, recorded, was embraced by the society in a way where people, I'd walk around and everyone just thought I was Ethiopian. And I had my second experience of being in a foreign country and feeling like I was at home. The only other time that it happened was in Brazil. So it was kind of a recreation of my Brazil process, where it's like, not only am I in Africa, but this place is embracing me, and my soul recognizes something here as like, I'm home.
Wow.
Then I went to Israel. I did end up meeting with this artist. There was that magical connection again, like, oh, I know you. You're just like sitting down with someone who was like, okay, I know I don't know you, but I know you. And I did shows there. I met new musicians. I did a radio program. I kind of created this life. I was there for 2 months. I learned a little bit of Hebrew and went through the process that I had gone through moving to Brazil, but consciously this time, and really jump-started this thing of like the connection to travel and music and yoga. And I don't know, it was kind of this up-leveling of coming into self and connecting with the world at a really authentic level. And so now, how does that inform what I want to say as an artist? How does that now change my voice?
That is so beautiful to hear. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm just like, I know we're like, yes. Like we need to have a part 2 with just Alissa on here. But you know what? It's so good that you say that, because I'm constantly in contact with people. People are constantly sending me messages, like just asking, I want to move to Brazil, or I want to leave the US, but they're terrified. They're terrified. They have a job. They have all of these different things. They don't want to give it up. And they're just like, how do I do it? And I think hearing your story, being able to step out on faith, and, also being able to just like not listen to naysayers, because there's always naysayers like, don't do this. This is going to happen. It's dangerous. How are you going to survive without working? How are you going to survive without insurance? Like all of these different things. And it's like, when all of these things are coming into your head, it stops you from living in your purpose, from doing what you're supposed to be doing, what the universe has for you, or what God or your maker, have in your life. And that's beautiful that you were able to, all right, I'm going to go do this. This is my dream. This is what's calling me. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit everything else and just go and just go for it and take that chance, and I think all of us who are on here did that, me, you, and Nefertiti. I had a thriving psychotherapy practice, as a psychotherapist in the States, and I closed that down to live here. Like, living in a favela in Salvador with almost no money. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I living in a favela in Salvador struggling when I got a house that I own in the States? I can go back there and have a job. But then it was like something was missing there. It was like, no, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to be here going through what I'm going through now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Karina says, absolutely love it. Super inspiring. Yes. Yeah. It was, just really, really inspiring to hear your story and to hear this.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have, this was supposed to be like half of the show, like 30 minutes and 30 minutes. And but
we
you know
don't have
what?
a production team telling us to
And I
wrap
was,
it up. It's our own.
Before I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say.
It was just so good that it was like, there's no way we could have stopped you, in 30 minutes. Like, it was just like, I think that everyone who's on here is like absolutely inspired by your story. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, you touched many souls. And I think that, hearing this story is going to help people to be able to take a chance and do something that they've been afraid to do. So this is even beyond finding your voice. It became more inspirational as to being able to trust your intuition, trust what your spirit is saying, trust what the divine has for you, and taking a step out on faith. So.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So Alissa, so tell us, where are you now in your work? COVID obviously has shifted the platforms of how we work. And so what are you doing now? How are you finding inspiration? And what is your inner higher self telling you? And how can people find you if they want to listen?
Okay. You have such great questions. So COVID was particularly challenging, shall I say, because what came out of finding my voice was this really kind of like passion. And I think that word gets overused, but like this really thirst for connecting and collaborating, because that's what happened when I was on this journey. And so I had a couple of projects that I had started, one with a musician in Ethiopia that is a web series. He came to Brazil for 3 weeks and we did some collaborations. And then that turned into a larger project where we were going to bring his musical group from Ethiopia to Bahia to work with some musicians in Samba de Roda. So this was all in the plans. And then COVID hit, and obviously we're not having any cross-cultural musical exchanges, and pretty much everything that I was doing in music was around making music with other people. And then now I'm in my house alone. So it became about, you've got this instrument, what are you going to do? And so the song that we heard at the beginning was really kind of like, all right, I can't play any of these instruments. Can I make the sound with my voice? And learn how to put tracks down. So what I hear in my head, I can put in tracks, and I'll just kind of be my own instruments for myself. And then learning how to reach out, with the people I had met in Ethiopia and some musicians in Bahia, and say, hey, here's what I created at home, really rudimentary. How can you put your voice in this? And I would send like the bass track to the people and say, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just listen to what I've done and do what you feel inspired to do. Because what I wanted to do is I really wanted to hear their voices on what I'd created. And the song that it ended up, I took a song that was by Serena Assumpção, and it was in Portuguese. It was about Iemanjá, who's an Orisha of the ocean, and she's my mama. And I translated it into English, put it with a poem of mine, and then sent it out. And so we have a musician from Mali that plays balafon on it. We have a musician from Ethiopia that plays guitar on it. We have a very talented arranger and bass player in Bahia who's from Kenya, who did the bass and the arrangement, and then a percussionist from Bahia that did the percussion. And so we just would send the track around the world. It took a few months. Came back to Bahia, we mixed it. We asked everyone to video themselves as they were playing. And so we were able to do a virtual collaboration that, you know, is not exactly what I had imagined before COVID, but it really forced me to go deeper into what is my voice, what is me. And so that led me to working on learning how to compose, doing smaller collaborations that, hey, I've got a lyric here. Can you put guitar on and let's see if we can take it. So that's pretty much, you know, not being able to perform and not wanting to do, you know, like performing by myself online on Instagram, which doesn't, you know, I just, it's great for some people, but I was feeling like it's not, that I'm not being authentic to me. So it's more an internal
So Alissa, can you give just like a couple of tips that you can share with people, a couple of tips to help them find their voice? If someone's trying to find their voice.
Like their voice, their singing voice, or just their voice? Like,
no, they're metaphoric.
Yeah.
I would say learn to distinguish the voices that speak to us. And what I mean by that is that for me, there's a voice that is when my heart is speaking to me. There's a voice that's when it's my ego speaking to me. There's a voice that mirrors my parents speaking to me. And I've had to learn to distinguish who's what and where is it coming from. The ego and the parental voices mostly come from fear and conditioning. My heart voice is always speaking what my soul wants me to hear. And the ego voice will try to trick you and make it sound like it's your heart voice. So I think you really have to come to know, what does it feel like when my heart is speaking to me? Because your feelings will never lie to you. Your head can lie to you, but what does it feel like when my heart voice says, hey, go leave your job and go to Israel to meet up with this musician? I felt ecstasy and joy, and I felt light, and I felt like a kid. Like when you're a kid and you're like, I'm gonna go build a castle outside and become a princess, when you're gonna do it. No one can tell you can't do that. No one can tell you that's an imaginary world. That's real to you. And so I know that voice is my heart voice. It's sometimes telling me to do something that my head voice will be like, you're crazy. That's dumb. But it's always correct. It has never failed me. It has never failed me. And so what I had to learn to do, because I didn't trust it, was find a team that could also identify, yep, that's your heart voice, and would lift me up. And for me, that was at first was my Ayurvedic coach would be like, okay, yeah, you want to listen to that voice. Now, how are we going to create support for you to be able to follow what that voice is saying? And also to learn to not tell everybody what I wanted to do. Because you'll have people who love you and honestly want to help you, and they'll give you advice, but that advice is coming from their fear, their limitations. And they are saying it out of love, but it's not necessarily going to support you and where you need to go. It's not necessarily what you need to hear. So that discernment where like, you know, like there's stuff I don't tell my mom because it terrifies her and she's going to say, don't do it. So even though she loves me dearly, I'm not going to seek her approval, you know, things like that. And to me, that's about self-love and protecting that voice and really honoring that voice and putting people around it that are going to support it and believe it and listen to it. So.
Fantastic. Live without fear. Give yourself permission. I'll go.
And you feel the fear. It's part of the human experience. But you need to have someone there saying, girl, I got your back. Do it anyway. You need to do this. People that are going to help you walk through it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Wow.
Alissa, we
Wow.
love you.
This
Yay.
is
This was great.
amazing.
I'm like, I'm gonna go
Yes.
sing now. No, I want to collaborate with you. You know, I've also had a hard time, like, you know, music is so collective, and I haven't been able to engage because I feel so kind of stuck because there's so much that you feed off when you're playing with somebody. So, you know, maybe it's time to kind of engage on the virtual platform and give myself permission to go a different avenue, right? So thank you so much for inspiring me, Renee, everyone watching. It was very, very wonderful, and much success to you and all your work moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you so much for inviting me. When I was speaking to Renee earlier, I was like, I don't think I have anything to say. Are you sure you want to invite me? So thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving me this platform. And I feel more and more, and especially, you know, for other women, like, it's so important that we share our voices to support each other, because society in general still does not give us permission to share our voices. And so we have to give permission and support each other when we do share our voices. So creating this platform.
Yeah. And that's really what this show is about, Red Lipstick Talk, you know.
Great segue.
Yes.
Fantastic segue. So actually it is because we wanted to let you know, Alissa, that we've been doing this show since April, every Friday. And for folks who are still, you know, getting into the show, we've been doing this, and we did it just exactly for that reason. Women of color in the world have to use these tools. We have a lot to say, we have a lot to share, and it is a space for us to build sisterhood, to build collectivity, despite, you know, the injustice. And it's an opportunity to also hear each other's stories, to support each other in this most difficult time. And that is why we created Red Lipstick Talk. So some folks may be seeing this little ticker below that says join us on Patreon. Okay, so we've been doing this show for $3.99 since April, because we want it to be accessible to everybody and anybody. However, Renee and I put a lot of thought and love and care into thinking about, you know, what do we want to share for ourselves, and also what do we want to share with people, with women, with women of color, with Black folks, with trans folks. What is it that we want to be sharing, and what do we want to be giving space for? And so to, you know, support women of color doing this work, because there's a lot of people who have shows. We all know how it works in terms of who's getting paid to do these shows, who's getting the support, who's getting the, you know, the kinds of like promotional marketing, ads, and all that stuff. And we are not about that, but we also believe that our work should be, you know, for folks who want to support what we're doing financially and allow Renee and I to have a little bit of more wiggle room for our creativity with the show, to buy some bread before we, you know, we do the show, because we both work independently. You know, our financial security, like so many people, is not necessarily guaranteed. So we want to put a shout out to folks who would like to support Red Lipstick Talk continuing, to consider becoming a Patreon patron. So I'm going to share the screen with folks so you can check out what does this mean to be a Patreon patron, and what does it come with? So I'm sharing this screen right now. Do you guys see? Are you guys seeing this? Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. So this is Red Lipstick Talk. We have membership levels. You can give just $3 a month, folks. $3 a month to be a Crimson member, $5 a month to be a Scarlet Patreon member, and $10 per month to be Rouge. And what does that come with? So $3 a month. It's like you feel good that you're supporting women of color doing this work. You get some behind the scenes takes of how we prepare for these shows. And so we have a couple here. If I'm going to scroll down, why was it important to start this show? So it was a really great day where Renee and I were just, you know, kind of talking about sort of what we were talking about today, at a particular moment. We talk about what it means to be an ally versus solidarity during Pride Month. So there's a lot of these prep meetings where we really have these deep discussions about what it is that we're trying to do in terms of being transformative with who we are, you know, deconstructing colonial thinking. All of that you get if you become a member. And for folks who give $5 a month, we can give you exclusive posts, resources, and contacts. So we'd love to talk, like for this show, for example, we were going to have a part 2 Black August, but because we loved Alissa, we are going to save that for next week. But there's a lot of, you know, research that goes into some of the topics we talk about, and a lot of resources as well. Renee and I both lived in Salvador. We know a lot of folks. We share a lot of contacts and resources. So for folks who give $5 or $10 a month, we will send you those lists post-show if you're looking to make contacts or bridges. And for the $10 a month folks, you also get some red lip shout outs and kisses live on the show. So that
and
is
also in addition to that, we do offer, you know, we do hold every Saturday free meditations for people, especially during it all started during the pandemic, to really give a space where people can just, you know, work through the stress, release their stress, feel a sense of peace. So that's also free. And, you know, supporting us via Patreon helps us to continue not only offering the Red Lipstick Talk on Friday nights, but offering the weekly meditations on Saturdays, because again, that's planning the meditations that we're going to lead, coordinating between the both of us, because we both lead different parts. And so, you know, so your supporting us through Patreon will help us to be able to support you, as well as different people in the community who needs it, who needs to meditate, who wants to come, but they're not able to afford to pay for meditation. So we would love that. Thank you. So Alissa, if you want to go ahead and share your website, it is on this thing here. But if you could share your website, your Instagram or Facebook, any handles for people to be able to find you.
Okay.
Anything you want to share?
Let's see. This is Instagram. Oh, wait. I put it in our private chat. Where do I have to put it?
I'll put it on there. I saw it.
But I'm gonna be kind of not so much on. I have a lot of stuff on YouTube and Instagram, but I'm gonna be probably moving more towards Patreon, because what I also want to do is to be sharing process. And like, you know, how am I creating the songs like this? I feel like it's important to share this journey. And so I'm going to probably be doing less stuff on regular social media and more moving towards Patreon. But there's a ton of stuff on YouTube. There's the web series that I did with the musician from Ethiopia called Wherever There's Music.
What is your YouTube channel?
Ooh, I should have come prepared, huh? Let me check.
I guess if they go to YouTube and Google Alissa Sanders, they'll find you.
Not sure. Let me check.
There's probably links on your website. Yes, AlissaMusic.com.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And because we just changed it, we were able to get it with my name on it. But yeah, if you go to my website, hold on. My channel, manage account, my channel. I know it's not coming up for me. If you go to my webpage, which is just there's a link to YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. So awesome. So so you could go to her Instagram at Alissa Sanders _music, or go to her website, which will take you to her YouTube. But Alissa is going to be moving over to Patreon like us, putting great content, great information. And Patreon really is about building community, building that tribe, connecting to your tribe, supporting each other, growing together, learning together. So it's just a great community. So,
and it's also a really special, if I might do a plug for Patreon in general, for those of you who are thinking of supporting Red Lipstick Talks, and you should. Before, have we been able to choose our content? I'm really starting to think of it way. Like, before, there's a record label that decides this is what we're going to hear. There's a network programmer that says, okay, this is the talk show we're going to have on. But you, as a patron, if you like what you're seeing on Red Lipstick Talk, if you like my work, you can be like, no, that's the media I want to see.
Mhm.
Right.
And you get to support it. You get to choose, which is really, you know, that is using your voice.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
well, there's so much crap out there, and we can
Yes.
oh, there's crap on TV. Well, there's Red Lipstick Talk. You don't have to watch TV. You can watch
Right.
this.
Yes.
You can support
You can
this.
watch
Yes.
So
Yes,
Yes.
and check out our other episodes. There have been great talks about so many things. Feel free to share. Feel free to fast forward. Feel free to do whatever. But yeah, we've been just doing this out of love for ourselves, love for our people, love and faith that we can be transformative even through this medium. So
Yeah.
absolutely. You are transforming.
Yay.
Beautiful. Yes. And this went an hour and 10 minutes. This was great stuff. Great stuff. So thank you guys for coming on and watching this. If you loved it, please share this with someone because it was very inspirational. So someone else can benefit from this. So share this, and sharing is caring. If you have not already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I am so excited to say I'm at 700.
Yay.
So subscribe, moving up. Hit that like button if you liked it, and hit the notification bell. The notification bell is important because even though you subscribe without hitting the notification bell, you're not going to receive notification when these lives are coming up. So that's important to hit so that you know when the live is coming on Friday, so you can remember. Because sometimes so many things are going on and you forget, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot about that live. But when you get that notification, it's gonna pop up on your cell phone. You're gonna be like, oh yes, Red Lipstick Talk. Yay, I didn't miss it this week. All right.
And if you did, you can always watch it after. Because, you know.
But we love you here because we love the conversation, you know. So anyway, love you guys. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Alissa. Have a good one. Bye, Renee.
Bye.